Hi, and welcome to the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams. I am also the Director of Operations for 12th Street Heritage Development Corporation, but for the past 4 years, I have been immersed in the real estate and development world. That journey led me to this podcast, the City Sculptors. Here, we take a look behind the curtain and we talk to business owners, city leaders, construction workers, realtors, and developers, and we see what does this world really look like and how a city is shaped. So if you've ever wondered, what she does seems kind of fun, or, hey, I want to make a difference in my community and be a city leader, listen and subscribe and hit like, because here, me, you, and anybody listening can be a city sculptor. Hi, and welcome back to the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and today we have a special guest, Jason Parsons, who is CEO of Parson and Associates.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So we'll just kind of dive right into your personal journey and background. Can you walk us through your path and tell us how you started in communications and what kind of led to you founding Parson and Associates?
So my background for many years, youth development.
Okay.
And then on February 10th, 2003, about 3:30 p.m., not that I remember, right? I got a call from my uncle and your uncle, and he said, we need you to be someplace. So I was a part of the invasion in Iraq. And while there, I soon realized if the good Lord saw fit for me to return, I wanted to give back to community. At the time, I worked with the city, Parks and Rec Department, which I loved then and love still to today. But I realized I needed to do more and wanted to do more. So when I got back, I just started on a journey working, part-time in the communications field, and from there, fortunately, gaining valuable work experience, I was then able to launch my own company.
Okay. So being a veteran, you kind of, more behind the scenes, especially being in Parks and Rec as well. Seeing kind of how other people ran their business, what did you decide to build your company values on?
People, quite frankly. I think most, I would say if not all, people are talented in one area or another. But that's not the driver for me. It is simply what is the content of your character? Okay. Are you able to work well with others? Because if you can, then I can train you to do the other things. But if you're not able to work in a team environment, which requires you to be flexible and always be open to change, if that's an issue, regardless of how talented you may be, you would not be a good fit for our company.
Okay. Kind of strict, but it is you. You serve the people, so I feel like that it makes sense that you have to be a people person in the communications department. You started your company. Now, was this started in 2003 or a little?
No, a little bit later.
Okay,
about 4 years later.
Okay, So now 2025, you've played a pivotal role in a lot of projects in Kansas City. Some of the largest are new airport, transportation initiatives, and infrastructure upgrades. What's been the key to earning the public's trust over the years?
Well, for me, I think the thing we like to pride ourselves on is to build project champions and not just project challengers. What I mean by that is oftentimes when we go engage with the public, it may not always be what they want to hear.
Right.
But I feel as if I'm charged with telling the truth, being transparent, and communicating these technical and challenging projects in ways that they can understand. And when you do that, and you are doing it in a meaningful way, you ultimately then have community buy-in and community ownership. And when that happens, it's a lot easier to move projects forward.
Do you feel like you guys have to have some sense of involvement in the community and, know the neighborhoods and things like that? How do you bring the two together? Because the public and the government usually never see eye to eye.
Right. So true. Well, for me, I'm born and raised in Kansas City. I think I've had an amazing background based on experiences. I grew up right in the hood from 28th and Bells and 30th in Brooklyn, then moved to Lee Summit for high school. So I'm able to tap into those relationships that have been cultivated over the years. Families from Kansas City, and when you are true, and when you have those relationships that you've cultivated over the years, and you've kept your word, it is a bit easier to go into neighborhoods that maybe have been skeptical of government and or just projects as a whole. But if you do have relationships, and again, if you have been able to stay true and you are guided by your moral compass, then you will always do the right thing.
So kind of tell us, guided by your moral compass, what do you feel like your civic responsibility looks like in your industry today with everything that's going on?
Well, I think there are probably levels to it. I think the first thing is, people, we have to be mindful and meet people where they are. And that means a lot, because in what we do, there's oftentimes, a lot being asked of folk. And quite frankly, for me, I always view it through the lens of, well, what's the community's return on investment? We always ask of community. We always ask of taxpayers, what are they getting? And I do have to walk a fine line, because obviously a lot of my work is with the government, and so that's something I'm very aware of. But at the same time, if I was doing something I didn't believe, I wouldn't do it. I'll give you for example. So for example, this was probably about 15 years ago or so, 12 to 15 years ago. And, the company was still new, and, little fledgling company, right? Still, just glad I'm getting any kind of check in, right? And so I'll never forget, I was approached and asked, for lunch, so me and this guy sit down and we had lunch, and he said, hey, the industry that I'm working for is wanting you to take on this project. And, we were at Winstead's on the Plaza. And so big time, right? Yeah. So he slid me a napkin. And he said, write any number on this napkin, what it would take for us to hire you. Any number. And of course, I slid the napkin back. Okay. And there wasn't a number on the napkin. He said, well, I don't understand. You can make as much money as you could possibly want on this deal. I was like, that's true, but at what cost? And the cost would have been, it would have been working for the check cashing industries, the payday loan and all that. And my point to him was, what benefit is it to me to gain and my community lose, right? Like that goes back to having relationships and credibility. Absolutely. I needed the money. Let me keep it 100 with you, right? Like MGE, Spire, they don't understand being just a good guy. They want right? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, however I would have benefited that moment, I would have lost in the end.
Okay. You stay kind of true to who you are, and it is within your firm's tagline is communication that moves people. What does that truly mean in today's political climate? You just told us the story about 10, 15 years ago, but today, what does that look like?
Well, I think for me, it just like let's not overcomplicate things.
Okay.
Let's keep things simple, and let's again. I go back to meeting people where they are. Again, you mentioned earlier, we've been very fortunate to lead pretty much every major public project in Kansas City. And quite frankly, some other ones that, probably a lot of people don't know about. But in doing all of that, there's a real responsibility that I feel that I have in order to not just get the projects done, but get them done in a way that we all can take credit and feel proud of. And so just going back to just community and communication. Yeah, I mean, I don't, think it's ever necessary to try to, do more than what you need to in order to get to where you're trying to go.
Okay. A couple weeks ago, we had marketing on our firm. How have you guys enhanced marketing with your PR firm over the years to, share with the people in real time and get feedback for those projects?
Well, this is an area we probably don't do as well of a job as we should. Quite internally, I'm talking. Okay. It's one of those things that the barber hair always looks the worst, right? And it's like, dude, cut your own hair, right? Yeah. You cut everybody else's. And for us, it's a situation of it's being intentional about sharing on those social media platforms and really communicating, because people get information through different sources. Mm-hmm. But we do have to do a better job of communicating out in real time through our channels what's going on. But, unfortunately, it's one of those deals where when you're working to communicate other things and other projects with everything else, you tend to take care of your home last. And so... Yeah,
but you got to toot your own horn, too.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that.
You got to brag on yourself a little bit so people know.
True.
You're doing a lot. So what advice would you give to emerging professionals trying to break into either civic communication or government affairs?
I think, again, it goes back to relationships.
They need to start building relationships.
Yeah, early and often, and build true relationships. Mm-hmm. And just know, like, what does a win look like, know? And people have different motives. They certainly get in it to provide for family and all those things, which is right. But the one thing I've learned is, Buck O'Neill once said this. He said, tell the truth when you can, and when you can't, tell it anyway. And so I say that to say, in what we do, it is very important to always be honest and for people to know where you stand. Okay. When you think about government relations and things like that, you don't want to, be known as that slippery, and that also means, though, that there are times where things will be difficult, because if you're true to who you are and you're not, always sitting on the fence, then, sometimes it's not going to go well for you.
So honesty in this profession is the best policy.
Yeah, in relationships.
In relationships.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you don't have either one of those, we'll bring somebody else on the podcast. You can look at that.
Yeah, go to law school.
Yeah. We just had somebody that said they went to law school. So.
I got plenty of lawyers that are close friends. So.
But you've been consistently advocating for equity and minority participation in public contracts. Over the years, what progress have you seen, and what progress do you still think we as a city need to make?
Wow, I'm going to try to.
Question.
Well, it's not only loaded, but I'm going to ease myself into it because I'm ready to. This is my jam right here. I think as a whole, there's been a lot of progress made to date in terms of MBE, WBE participation, but what I also feel is that we're at a place where way too many people and businesses have become complacent. Okay. So what I mean by that is that these, whether engineering firms, architectural firms, or whatever, right? I find it most interesting. They call, these, MBE, WBE firms and say, hey, we got this great opportunity for you.
Yeah.
We would like for you to join the team. And where it really gets me is when they ask for these firms to be exclusive. And so anytime I'm asked to be exclusive on a project, my simple question is this, is that, let me see if I understand you correctly, right? You want me to give you a competitive advantage on a contract that requires you to meet goals. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, you're great with this and that. So that's fantastic. And then I follow it up with, well, just tell me, if we're so great like you say we are and we're difference makers, is that right? Yeah, of course you are, right? You're fantastic. Then why is it that the only projects we work with you on are the ones that require goals? You're a multi-billion-dollar company and do work all over the city, the county, the state, and yet, as great as we are, the only contracts that we have are the ones that require goals. So I challenge, all minority women, larger firms to revisit that, right? And, as a minority and women firm, it is a delicate conversation, right, to have because, oftentimes you're dependent on that work. Yeah. And I remember we were pursuing a very large project downtown, and I text one of the partners, and I was like, I'm so appreciative that you allowed me to have a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you don't have a seat at the table. He said, it is your table.
Okay.
And that forever has changed how I go about this, right? Mm-hmm. You see, I sit on the board of Black Healthcare, and we have a golf tournament every year. And we have all these firms that participate and all these people of color that play.
Yeah.
And I say, man, it's great to see you every year. But do you ever get to go to Loch Lloyd and play in any other golf tournament? Do you ever get to go anywhere else? Why? Is this the only tournament that your company sends you to? Is the Black Healthcare, right? Your company participates in 40, 50 golf tournaments a year, right? But you're here at the Black Healthcare.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole lot of businesses that happen, a whole lot of business that happens in the 49 other golf tournaments throughout the year, right? We have to do better, right? There's nothing wrong with, again, obviously I love the Black Healthcare. There's nothing wrong with having Black people play golf at the Black Healthcare. But why can't they play golf at the other tournaments as well, right? And we need to push back and say, look, enough. You know what I mean? Like, I know the position I'm in, and it's taken me decades to get here to have a voice. But at this point, what do I have to lose, right? Like, it's game on, right? Again, I come from the hood, moved to the suburbs. I got it all, right? Like, I wear the suit, but I ain't of the suit. You know what I mean? So my thing is, if not me, who, right? If not now, when? And but it can't, like, I'm not saying I'm by myself, but I am saying that it takes a village, it takes all of us to push these institutions beyond where they've been. In February, they all have these amazing Black History programs, but the other 11 months, it ain't no Black History, right? Yeah. Like, it's like, look, you know what I mean? Like, we just have to do better. And they tout like all this contract work and all this, but the only thing they're touting are contracts that require goals. Yeah. Right? Like put up all your revenue on these these non-MBE, WBE requirements, like how many minority and women businesses are working on all these contracts? You're touting that you're giving them millions of dollars of work, but it's because you have to.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the issue.
And we accept it. It's kind of like a catch-22 because while we're grateful to be on MBE, WBE projects, it's also you need to fight to be on the other ones as well.
Yeah, because there's the MBE, WBE, the contracts is, and I don't know any of these companies' portfolios, but I would venture to say it certainly isn't half, right? It may be a quarter of their work, and the other 3/4, it's just. Let's call it what it is, right? If you value them on these contracts and yet you don't value them on any other contracts, it's a relationship of opportunity, right? And unless, but I get frustrated because I hear so much how valuable these firms are, and yet they limit them in their opportunity. So I'm off my soapbox.
No, they need it. We appreciate advocacy around here. If you had the power to change one thing, would that be about Kansas City and how we approach development and civic engagement? Would it be that?
That's a very good question. If I had the magic wand to change something, that's a great question. As we get to the end, right? You stumped me a little bit with that one. I don't know if you could maybe just change one thing. And I'm not saying all this stuff is broken. What I'm saying is that we can
always improve.
We can always absolutely improve. And so, I would just think from folks I know, if you're just talking about development, there are, I guess, ways to streamline development here in the city to make it easier to get things done. When I think about Kansas City as a whole, I absolutely love this city. I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say, but it is an absolute hidden gem of a city. We certainly have things that we need to do better and grow, but it's there. So I think when I think about this city, though, I still think that the challenge we have is how do we get away from when we identify communities, so again, for example. When we think about the historic jazz district, I do get a bit frustrated sometimes because what you often hear is, well, that's an East Side, 3rd District, whatever. But I would push back and say there's nothing like the historic jazz district in all of Kansas City. Very few people come to Kansas City to go to Power and Light specifically, or go to the zoo, or go to the plaza, right? My office is located in the Jazz District, and there are people that come here from all over the world to visit this Jazz District. So I guess where I'm going with that is, I do think the mindset of that's on them, or we've given them enough money. Well, we're all in this together. In Kansas City, we pride ourselves on barbecue and jazz, right? Then let's back that up. Yeah. And so any parts of the city, I guess that's just what I'm saying. It doesn't just have to be that. Just would like to, have more of a mindset of we're all in this together. Yeah. Because if one part of the city suffers, then truly the whole city suffers.
What has surprised you most about being an entrepreneur in this space? You've talked about kind of the challenges and how you want to change people's mindset, but what surprised you over the years since you've been in this?
Well, one, it is very hard. It's for me, I have to balance multiple worlds. Yeah. Right? The corporate world every day, and the other world, minority world, right? And those are two distinctly different experiences. And what I found is that for me is there's, and it, too much is given, right?
Much is required.
Much is required. And I'm about that. But I have found people. There's a lot of just takers in the world, right? If you allow them, they will take everything from you, and they think that well, you have it to give, right? You want to count people's money or count people's time, and it's and I mean, I don't. It comes with, I guess, the perception of success, and that's fine. But how do you balance giving back to community? How do you balance the mentor, the coaching, and still maintain a healthy lifestyle, right? Because if you're not careful, the one thing I do know is you will give your all to folk that will take all and then will care less that you gave all. Yeah. Right. And so how do you guard yourself from not just totally giving everything and not leaving you with anything?
I'm gonna have our social media team cut that little phrase because I like that. So we'll use that later. Yeah. Our podcast is, though, called The City Sculptors because we believe everyone has a role in shaping their city. So how do you hope you're sculpting Kansas City in your own right for future generations to look back on?
Well, I go back to the past to answer this. Like, one thing I very rarely talk about is, so my grandfather was a jazz musician who has really helped put Kansas City on the map, and is world famous, world known, and he could have lived anywhere, and he traveled the world, and yet he made Kansas City home because Kansas City embraced him. And so, when I think about what I'm doing and hopefully the impact that I can make, I mean, obviously I start with where, I'm most invested in the historic jazz district. But I think ultimately for me, it's how do I create either a pathway or make myself available for those women, businesses, minority-owned businesses, small businesses that are just trying to make it. I'll leave you with this. Well, I mean, maybe you got more questions.
He wrapping it up for me,
y'all. No. Maybe you got more questions. Bring them. But I'll tell you this. I'll never forget. I was struggling, trying to find my way, and this was probably 20 years ago or so. And I had a meeting with an elected official at Crown Center. I'll never forget this. And he took the meeting because, he was asked to. But for the maybe 5 or 10 minutes we were meeting, he was doing everything but engaging in conversation. And I've never forgotten what that felt like. It truly was. I recognize he was, occupied with other things, and it was a waste of his time. And I said, if I ever get in a position where people seek my time or value my opinion, I will always make them feel like at that moment it's just the two of us, right? Regardless of whatever is going on, I will be engaged. I will take notes, and and I will want that person to feel, look, maybe they're not a CEO or whatever, but, yet and still they're just as valuable. Their time is just as valuable as my time.
Okay. Well, that was all of the hard questions I have.
Oh, good.
Are you ready for a quick fire?
Hey, let's roll.
Twitter, Threads, or LinkedIn? What's your go-to for community conversations?
Twitter.
What's your favorite underrated Kansas City landmark or restaurant?
I do love. There's two. Like,
okay, give us both.
I love Gates, and I like this other restaurant called Earl's Premier.
Okay. Gates isn't underrated though. I think everybody knows that they're good.
Well, yeah, maybe, but it's so okay. Gates, Earl's Premier, Peachtree. I don't know. I'm a pretty simple dude.
Okay. Okay.
I don't have to have a.
Biggest misconception about what you do?
A lot of people don't even think I have a job. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what do you even do? You know what I mean? I'm like, I got a job.
They just see you outside all the time.
And I think the biggest misconception is the time I put in to be where I'm at. The sacrifices that I've made, my family's made, and the struggle it takes. There was a song that simply goes, it was one person talking to the other. He says, you're looking at now, but you don't know how I struggled and what I've been through. And I think so many people look at the end product, and that's fine, right? Because everybody doesn't need to know your struggle.
Yeah.
But to get there, you got to go through the storm. And I don't think people, they just see the final product and think it's just easy. It's not. Okay.
If you weren't doing this, last question. This wasn't an option. If you weren't doing this, what would your dream job be?
I used to want to be an airplane pilot.
Okay.
And I kind of talked about lawyers, so I thought about law school. But here's what's funny. And this is where, I could probably win a lot of money. When I got back from war, I actually went, Johnson County Community College has a railroad academy out there. And so I was offered a job at one of our railroad companies, and I was going to go on and be, drive trains and be in the management training program and all that. So I came close to
working on the railroad. Okay.
So, but didn't happen. And, God's always got a plan.
Yeah, I love that answer, because who even thinks? That's a great one. So thank you for spending your morning with us. And thank you guys for watching the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the City Sculptors. If you've ever thought about how our city shaped or thinking about a new career path, this podcast is for you. We upload every second and fourth Monday. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and this is the City Sculptors Podcast.